The views expressed in this blog are hosted on my own website, are strictly personal, and do not reflect the views of any organization. Hello and welcome once again to Straight Bat, my weekly video blog where, as the title suggests, I comment with a straight bat. First up, a happy 2022. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. A long, difficult and turbulent 2021 is finally behind us. And today on Straight Bat, I'm offering a prayer for a better India in 2022. An India where our political leadership will walk the talk on issues of critical public importance, where you can't ask people to mask up, observe physical distancing and strict discipline and night curfews, and yet choose to be personally reckless in not observing basic COVID protocols during election campaigns and large public rallies, where you don't claim premature victory over a pandemic as a personal image building exercise, but prepare instead for a long and arduous battle, where you importantly keep science above superstition and respect a virus in a once-in-a-lifetime calamity, where the oxygen of winning elections surely should matter less than the number of oxygen plants that our governments will set up for the future, where good governance matters more than crafty political propaganda. And India, my friends, where young resident doctors don't have to hit the street to protest a delay in medical college admissions, where there is no point in hailing hospital staff as COVID warriors and engaging in thali bajao event management and photo ops, and then denying doctors better working conditions. How many people are aware, my friends, here that postgraduate medical admissions in this country have been delayed by more than almost a year because of government lethargy and court delays? Where those who die of COVID, my friends, are at least assured dignity in death, where COVID death numbers are not falsified and data is accurately presented, where we don't revere the Ganga as the ultimate holy river and then allow dozens of decomposed bodies to float along the river or be buried in the sandbanks only because there is no place left to cremate the dead. And when this is exposed by the media is targeted for exposing this grim reality. And India, my friends, where governments are accountable to Parliament and most crucially to citizens, where Parliament functions in a spirit of genuine bipartisanship and not as a notice board for pushing through and bulldozing government bills by firman and without any discussion, where ministers cannot get away by claiming in Parliament that they have no knowledge of any migrant deaths during the lockdown or of any job losses because of economic dislocation, where governments cannot go to court and claim that the Prime Minister's Cares Fund is not a public authority and hence does not come under the purview of the Right to Information Act, where it is my right to know as a citizen how the thousands of crores of money raised in the name of the fund have been spent in purchasing ventilators, vaccines and oxygen cylinders, else the opacity destroys public trust. It cannot be that electoral bonds that fund our political parties remain opaque, and NGOs and groups like the missionaries of charity that work amidst the poorest of the poor are subject to rigorous compliance. You cannot have the foreign funds of political parties above scrutiny while NGOs are subject to these rigorous checks. Checks must be for all. And India, my friends, where leaders don't divide us by pitting one religion against another, where no religious or political leader from any community is allowed to get away with hate speech or incitement to violence, where the atrocities of Aurangzeb in the 17th century should not determine the fate of the Indian Muslim in the 21st, where the scars of past animosities cannot become the template for an India of the future, where an electoral battle, my friends, should not be over who rebuilds how many temples and places of worship, but ultimately about who builds how many quality schools and hospitals, where Hinduism's remarkable strength is seen to lie in its uniquely plural, inclusive traditions, not in seeking to mimic other faiths by monotheistic beliefs, where weaponizing vigilante groups by allowing violent mobs to break into church halls is seen as a heinous criminal act that must lead to prosecution, where the real battle is not between Hindu versus Hindutvavadi, but between constitutionalism versus anti-constitutionalism, where the Indian state must keep away from promoting any form of religious ritualism or intervening in personal freedoms, where what we eat and drink, who we marry, what we wear, how we pray must be a matter of fierce individual choice. An India where our borders are secured, where China and Pakistan aren't allowed to wage a two-front war, where national security doesn't get entangled in toxic, viciously competitive domestic politics, where an agitating Sikh farmer isn't instantly labeled as a Khalistani terrorist, or a Kashmiri student isn't branded as anti-national, where terrorism doesn't resurface in Punjab or get caught in a bloodied cycle of oppression, alienation and violence in the Kashmir Valley, or where innocent laborers are not shot dead by trigger-happy armed forces in Nagaland, where a robust civil society isn't seen as a new frontier of war and dissent isn't criminalized. An India, my friends, where the health of our economy is not determined by the buoyant mood on Dalal Street, but by the deepening concerns over shrinking employment levels, low labor participation ratios, and falling incomes and rural joblessness, where no V-shaped economic recovery is possible unless there is a revival in the struggling micro and small enterprises sector, where rising inflation is reined in and fuel prices don't consistently challenge Sir Don Bradman's cricket average because of rampant profiteering by governments imposing unacceptably high taxes on us. And India, my friends, where we realize that we are still caught in horrific income inequalities, where it cannot be that the top 10% of income earners account for 57% of our national income. An India where governments realize that an entire generation of young people are victims today of a widening digital divide in COVID times. A recent survey shows that only 25% of children enrolled in class 3 were able to read a simple sentence in 15 states across rural India. Did you know that 17% of children in secondary schools have dropped out in this COVID period? According to the National Right to Education Forum's policy paper, around 10 million girls alone are at the risk of dropping out, where with 33 lakh children reportedly malnourished, an emergency intervention is called for to meet the nutrition challenge, where environment consciousness is not just about hot air in seminar chat rooms, but translates into concrete action in ensuring clean air and in ensuring that our dwindling forest cover is protected, where, my friends, the political executive respects institutional integrity and independence and doesn't misuse enforcement agencies to simply pulverize the opposition into submission. An India where the process doesn't become the punishment, where it cannot be that opposition leaders are raided by tax authorities just before an election and then given a clean chit after the election if they switch sides, where a top actor's son isn't imprisoned on spurious drug charges, if only to send out a chilling message to many celebrities to fall in line, where outdated sedition laws are not misused to intimidate a young climate change activist, where the police realize that their true allegiance is to the rule of law and not to their political bosses, where it cannot be that the Supreme Court protects the life and liberty of a high-profile news anchor instantly, but habeas corpus petitions of less-known anonymous Indians are kept pending for years. You cannot have a Siddiq Kapan in jail for more than a year without bail. Rajdeep Sardesai could get instant bail, where inconvenient truths aren't kept hidden in sealed envelopes in the highest judiciary of this country. An India where journalists realize that their professional duty is to ask questions of all, but their primary task is to hold accountable those in power. Where we must remember the golden words of South Africa's anti-apartheid icon, Reverend Bishop Tutu, who passed away last week. He said, and I quote, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor." Think about it. That was the straight bat. Once again, wish each and every one of you a happy new year. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel for many more such videos. For now, stay well, stay happy and healthy. Namaskar. Jai Hind.